for coming out today. Realize we have a really packed late January, early February schedule, so I appreciate the energy and the enthusiasm you all have for coming out to the public program. Yeah, we're really excited today to welcome Cristina Goberna Pesudo. Somehow we managed to triangulate between Sydney and Madrid and New York and Boston and found a way to sneak you in here to Iowa in between. So we're really happy that you're here with us. Cristina is a practitioner, an educator, an architect, and a critic. She's the founder, as you probably know, of Fake Industries Architectural Agonism, a title which I believe you'll probably explain. Okay. Everyone's covered. Which is a practice that is a kind of horizontal structure of collaborative work based in Barcelona, New York, and Sydney. So of course, it has to be somewhat horizontal to manage the things. She's a Fulbright Fellow and was awarded a Master in Advanced Architectural Design at the GSAP, as well as an Advanced Architectural Research Certificate, all in Columbia University, of course. In 2010, she was a visiting scholar at the NYU Institute of Fine Arts. She's now currently a PhD candidate in the School of Architecture at Barcelona, where she develops her dissertation about the construction of the EU urban imaginary through the PAN, it's now called the Europan, and looking mainly at forms, historical forms of architectural pedagogy in relation to politics. After 5 years being an adjunct professor in GSAP at Columbia, New York, she's currently also a senior lecturer at Sydney, the University of Technology in Sydney, and now also a visiting professor at MIT, so working all around the world. Christina's work has been exhibited internationally, and her projects and writings have been published widely. Fake Industries was awarded with the 2009 Young Architects Forum Prize by the Architecture League of New York, which is a very prestigious award, of course. And in 2014 and 15, the American Institute of Architects, the New Practices Prize. Fake Industries won the Europan competition in 2003, 2005, 2009, and 2012, which is a very good track record. And the international competition to build the new Velodrome in Medellin, currently under construction. In 2014, they were finalists in the design of the Basel Miami Pavilion contest and the MOMA PS1 Young Architects program, which most of you probably will know about. Fake Industries was also one of the 6 shortlisted teams in the Guggenheim Helsinki Museum Competition. It's a particularly interesting entry, which I believe you'll talk about as well, which they also wrote a lot about afterwards to sort of situate their design as not just sort of one of the many fancy projects, but somehow situating architecture as a more discursive, critical, cultural artifact, let's say. Their work has been acquired in collections from the Chicago Art Institute to the Pavilion Center in Paris. And in 2015, they were also invited to participate in the Chicago Architecture Bienniale. It was invited as a participant in the Spanish Pavilion in the Venice Biennale of 2016. If any of you had seen that, their work was there. As well as the Oslo Architectural Triennale and the Istanbul Design Biennial. So with that, I'd like to welcome Cristina.
Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Okay, so first I want to explain a little bit what you have in the screen. Yeah, maybe let's you will see better probably. And I like to talk about these projects as if it was more like an informal meeting, sort of speak, as if I take it to a trip with me, let's say. And well, we are Fake Industries Architectural Agonism. That is an organization, let's say, that always work in horizontal structures. we don't hire people, we make collaborations, also because we have this position in terms of the hiring, let's say, of unpaid interns or something like that. We have like this campaign against it completely. So we collaborate with people regardless if they are 15 years younger or 15 years older, it doesn't matter really. And we also do temporal networks. So each project we do with different people as well, no? And you will be wondering about the name. That is almost like a joke because it's like impossible, no? I mean, you will have to have like a catchy name so people can recognize you, the clients can recognize you. But we are not sure about this idea of clients any longer anyway. So one thing that we're interested in is this idea of replica, but as Roman language explains it, no? That has a dual sense. So replica as a literal copy, but replica also, like in Latin, as replicare, as answer to a previous statement. So in terms of replica as copy, we are very much interested in fakes. We think that the world is full of architecture, more or less interested. We do not want to add any longer. Of course, at the end, you end up adding architecture, but this is something that is present in our project at different degrees, because we also collaborate with people that don't share this idea, of course. And in terms of the agonism, or the answer to a previous statement, one thing that we do consistently in every project, we study what are the current conditions, we study what are the issues that have to be answered or addressed, and we act accordingly. So we are really like a practice that believe in the role of architect as we vindicate somehow the role of the architect as a public intellectual, like the French figure of the public intellectual, no? Someone that is not only in their office, someone that is not only in his or her office in academia either, but it's someone that really can have a public voice, can write in newspapers, can have these conversations with different agents, can address the press, can address politicians, could be a politician as well, can build buildings, can write criticism, everything in between too, no? So everything that we do and everything that we teach is with that in mind, the vindication of the idea of the architect as a public intellectual. No? And I wanted to start with this image, not because it's interesting in terms of the graphic representation or anything like that, it's something that we did for ourselves, because it links very well with this that I have just said. No? This is a map of a project that we did during 10 years. This is from one of the Europan prizes that we got, and it was the recuperation or the rehabilitation of a mining village in Spain that I'm not going to show, but here you see all the agents that were involved, politicians, engineers, historians, users, inhabitants, all sorts of people. You can also see publications that we produced there. So every time that we would go, this was in the center of Spain, in Cáceres, every time that we would fly from New York to Cáceres, it would be to talk to different agents as well, and therefore we produce different publications too. So the publications that we produce in order to explain the project to the inhabitants, and maybe were, people 70-year-old neighbors, or the press, or politicians, or, you really have to develop these skills to be able to seduce the public and to say something about current topics. Of course, you have to take an ideological position. That's what we believe, no? So this is like a map. We really believe that architects somehow are also producers of documents of negotiation. We are producers of documents of negotiation, okay? So that's, it goes very well with this idea of the architect as a public intellectual. And I'm going to explain a few projects. I'm going to start with this one. And at the end, I will talk a little bit about one research project that I developed in different universities as well, that is called the Book of Sins, but that will be at the end. I want to start with the proposal that we did for the PS1, the MOMA PS1 a few years ago. I think that was like 3 years ago or so. The MOMA in New York has an outpost in Queens that has a courtyard, and in summer, every Saturday, there's a very big party. So they bring these DJs from Europe and from all over the world, and there's like a party until very late. And every year, the MOMA curators ask deans from different schools and editors of magazines and curators as well to give them names. And if you are named, they call you, you submit a portfolio, and if you are lucky, you are one of the 5 finalists. and then you have to do a proposal, let's say, for the corridor. And then if you win, you build it, no? We didn't win. But what we did is actually, we invited out of the blue our friends, the office Maya from Barcelona. This created really big problems with MOMA because, I mean, they didn't go through all the process of selection. We just, again, with this horizontal structure that we like, we just wanted to invite our friends to work with us as co-authors completely, no? So this is the result. So one thing that we identify, I mean, we really tried to identify what was the question that MOMA wanted to put on top of the table, inviting architects to talk and to build in their backyard to celebrate these parties, right? So then we realized that maybe the issue was, the question was, if architecture can really boost a party, can improve a party, or it's actually totally an outsider, because what we thought is that what MOMA was fostering somehow, was pushing, was the idea of these projects that were more like symbolic, in a corner, and that had absolutely nothing to do with the parties whatsoever. So we really wanted to be somehow against this position that MOMA had, no? Of course we didn't win, as you can imagine, no? But this is the result anyway. All right, so we start doing this detailed research about parties in New York, the history of parties in New York, fascinating research, of course, no? And this is the CBGBs in the Bowery, and seeing this, there is a picture after a concert of the Ramones, so maybe, you know, television, or Patti Smith, or something like that. You could think that architecture actually has probably nothing to do with parties. It doesn't matter what architecture is. So that was the hypothesis that we had at the very beginning. Maybe architecture is totally disconnected from parties, no? But then, going back in history, we start seeing all these other celebratory events, no? So for example, the ball dances at the very beginning of the 20th century in Midtown, and during the Prohibition time, the speakeasies where you had to, you know, knock on a door and then go through an elevator that was for food in a restaurant, in an Italian restaurant in the village, that would take you down to this like big party, you know, with pirate boats, or just like alcohol, basically, no? That's what you see here. And actually, you start seeing that maybe these spaces had certain characteristics as well, no? I mean, they have certain characteristics as well. So we started to try to analyze which were those characteristics. And we also thought about the bars around Columbia University, where the beat generation used to meet, all these bars full of smoke and jazz that had a certain atmosphere as well, right? Or for example, we start seeing the Wall Bar and all the bars in the village, where in the late 50s, the folk music started with Bob Dylan, all these generation bars that were open 24 hours and that maybe had also specific architectural characteristics, no? Of course, we thought about the factory in Warhol, where this is a typical loft in Manhattan, let's say, but it had certain elements that were characteristics maybe, right? But we thought about the Mad Club and these surfaces where maybe more interesting things were happening with all these four and chains, you know? And we thought about the leather bars in the Meatpacking District with the darkness and the steam, let's say, as well. Of course, we thought about the CBGBs and places like that where there were technical details that were like inherent to the characteristics of the place themselves, as well on the Twilio and the light or the limelight. And, you know, I mean, all these devices coming back and forth, or the Western Hall today as well, right? So our conclusion was that actually architecture can do certain things for parties, actually. And we identified certain technologies that we call celebratory technologies, and I'm going to explain three of them. The first one, I would call them, or we call them, body technologies. And body technologies are really sex and drugs. And really, as an architect, it's not that you can do much about that. I mean, you can provide for certain spaces that would invite for certain actions, but I mean, you can participate as a regular person, as a architect, let's say, no? But then, of course, you have scopic technologies. And scopic technologies are veils and windows and halls and glory halls. And of course, then you can start designing these spaces that are more curated, right? And then you have, of course, the more famous ones, the more obvious ones that are the atmospheric technologies, like music. There's no party without music. And light, I mean, there's no party without more or less, better, less, maybe light as well. No? And then, of course, we thought that in reality, I mean, the main element of the party is the people, really. So the users have to be the activators of the party. So the element cannot be just iconic in the corner, it has to be something that will have to be activated by the party goers, basically, no? And this is a fantastic map that Daniel Fernandez Pascual from Cooking Sections actually gave us. And it's Harlem with all these rent parties where when the Cotton Club and all these clubs close, all the musicians would go to these private parties until the morning. No? So one thing that I was mentioning before is that we like to create these temporal networks, and for this project about parties, it was really like a big celebration of friends, because not only Mayo joined us, but also Daniel Fernandez Pascual from Cooking Sections joined us, because he's an expert in parties. He did this incredible research in Berlin that is called Partitopias in Berlin. Take a look, it's online. But also Paul Esteve, that is, he teaches at the AA in London, came to talk to us, and this is a project that we put in our submission that is from him and another person as well. And this is incredible because I think that it was in 2006 he started to map and do these kind of drawings, plan drawings of the dark rooms in gay bars in Barcelona. Now, this could seem very simple, but these rooms are dark and are full of people, you know? So, I mean, the stories were amazing. He told me something like, we could not measure, and it was dark. So we had to measure with our feet, for example. So we would go, you know, like one of them would be, you know, pushing people around so they could really see all the corners and draw the spaces, no? So he told us the importance of the acoustics, the corners, I mean, in these kind of activities that happen in some parties as well, no? And then with Daniel, we studied all the winners from the PS1 competition, all the winners from the very beginning, how they interact, how they could interact with people or not, to prove that actually there were more objects than any other thing. You know? So we did all these drawings to prove our point. And then we also work with Luis Urculo, that is a visual artist, and he used to be an architect as well, and I'll show you a video that we did with them. But we could really summarize the project in 3 points, let's say. One is this distributed iconicity, because in the Instagram time that we are now, I mean, the more variety of spaces that you have, the more success you have as well. And that's another thing that you can see in parties. Now, if you go to a flat, to an apartment, to a party, it's always more interesting in a way if you have like different places to go. You go to the kitchen, and you go to the balcony to smoke, and you go to the bedroom, and you go to the living room, right? So we thought that it was much better to distribute this iconography, you know, iconicity, sorry. And in order to do that, and also with this idea of less design, what we did was this collection of rooms. They were all the same, and each of them, I mean, this is a super easy way of explaining the project. 40, I think there was 44 rooms, all the same. Some of them with elements that could be activated with by the users. And the walls that were drywall, like super simple really, had different windows and doors, so you could see or not see what was happening in the next room or the other, I mean, or adjacent spaces as well, no? So that was the project. Nothing like that, and nothing more than that, no? We also collaborated with graphic designers, a group of graphic designers. We explained them the project briefly, and they did this publication and these models as well that I'm going to show you. Córdoba Canillas, they are called, some of the images that they did. So thinking about, you know, parties, and one of the elements that I showed you before was this mountain of sand, let's say, that looks like something different if we think about parties, of course. So each room had like a theme. Let's say you had the fog room, you had the mountain room, you had the avant-chambre. The other thing is the pure performance of program. That is more or less what I just told you. I mean, it's like pure performance. There's not like a specific program. Maybe in a room there was a piano, but in another room maybe there was a hall. No, nothing. We never said people have to sit here. No, people were free to move around. No, so this is like an image with all the halls, let's say, and the elements as well. The DJ set. Actually, I don't know. I mean, these images. I mean, do you remember these small devices to see all time? I mean, all slides. You know, this that are like square. We did many models, micro models inside those that are these. These are pictures that we took with an iPhone inside. You know, looking inside. So we distribute them in a silver tray during the presentation, let's say. You know. So they seem like big photomontages and so, but like really microscopic, almost microscopic models. No? So the DJ set, the speakers room, the piano, you know, the piano room, the sweat room, the pool. That was just a room with a little bit of water, and that's it. The pool, the hall. Blah, 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 the mountain again. The curtain, there was just a room with a curtain, maybe 1 meter from the wall, and no cameras or nothing, so you could just, nothing, do whatever you want. You could just watch the curtain, exactly. The mirror room. And then, of course, MOMA is very obsessed with sustainability, and we thought that you really don't necessarily have to do something extremely sophisticated in terms of sustainability, that sometimes it's extremely expensive. We just build with drywall that you could reuse afterwards, and that's it. And I think that we have been the only team in history of the PS1 that were under the budget, because normally the budget is only $100,000, and people spend like $1 million, you know. So we're really against this idea of the poor winner having to look for, you know, $1 million around or $500,000 around. And this is just the project, it's just a drywall with holes, you know, and some elements, that's it. And this is the video that I already told you that I was going to show you by Luis Circulo, and this is a video that we also presented in MOMA. Well, I'm not even going to start telling you the adventure with the chicks, you know? Because the chicks, we bought them when they were very young, but they start growing. So at the end they were like teenagers, and they would escape, and they would be very aggressive, and they get nervous, and they shit all over the place. So they grow, so the models have to grow as well. So you have to grow, make the models bigger, and so one thing that we really are interested in doing, sorry, sorry. We are very interested in investigating all the ways of explaining architecture, so you're talking about architecture. So instead of doing like this typical text, you know, our project is the entrance, blah, 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 this is the topic more or less, this is a publication that I told you that we did with Córdoba Canillas, the designers. And these images that you have seen, apart from the small models that we did ourselves, but we wrote like a number of fictions in order to explain the project. So for instance, well, this is the introduction, that was already a fiction. But for example, these explain like the history of the speakeasies and all these things that I was telling you about at the beginning. There were certain jokes that I actually never found funny at all, to tell you the truth. For example, this was like a cabaret, you know, like the MC of a cabaret would arrive in the PS1, and this person will welcome you, and he will guide you to show you the place. So you will get to know the place through these fictions, no? The Donor and the Beast was like a small tale of a donor, you know. I mean, the PS1 is interesting for MOMA because they do all these events to get sponsors, no? there's like this donor that is very bored on one of these parties, and he meets like a party goer that has been in the project, in the winner project that was us, for 3 days. So they have this small affair, let's say. And then we did like a fake interview with Ulrich Ulrich as well. So that was that. All right. Oops. This is everything. Okay. Am I very late? Okay. So I'm going to. Let me see. I'm going to change project now. I'm going to talk about the Guggenheim. And in fake industries, we don't. I mean, of course, me and my partner, we don't agree in absolutely anything. I'm going to tell you my position in terms of this more than anything else, no? But in general, I can say maybe that we believe that pleasure is somehow the ultimate rebellion, if you want. So I'm not interested in doing competitions, you know, one after the other at all. But only when there's a competition, and we are really, really supporters of competitions. So we come from the European tradition. It's a way where everybody can really access to certain commissions. Otherwise, it's impossible, no? Almost. Only when there's a competition that puts on top of the table a very difficult question, like a really uncomfortable question, then we think, okay, let's try it, right? So, for example, the Guggenheim Museum in Helsinki, something as American, as from this country, as the Guggenheim Museum in a European place. I mean, I can't think of a more difficult question to tell you the truth, more uncomfortable question as well. So then we decided to do it. It was like the biggest competition in history with like thousands of 1,700, I think, entries. And miracle, we were one of the 6 finalists, no? So we went to the second stage, you have a budget, and suddenly you have to do like a very big project, actually for a few months. No? So, but of course, I mean, even in the second stage, it was anonymous, so we couldn't say which project was ours, not even to our friends. I think that was pretty obvious, but that's another story, no? But we were observing what was happening around, no? And we were very surprised because we saw all these critics that we admire, some of them very much, and that have been our professors sometimes as well, talking about this competition. No? So we'd see Paviliion saying that it was a horror, or we'd see Paul Goldberg saying that it was the worst architectural event of that year, and we'd see Ren Koolhaas that built his career upon public competitions, saying that competitions were a disaster, and we'd see Victoria already saying that competitions were not political because they were based in consensus, no? So we couldn't defend ourselves until the end, and then we wrote an article about it that is in the Avery Review, actually. And these were like the 6 finalists. Actually, I would have liked to bring the first entries, not the second stage entries, because we were the only ones that didn't propose like a shape of a building. And I would say you will understand why later, no? All right, so the project. One of the things that we discovered when we actually went to Helsinki, because the Guggenheim Foundation organized this workshop, and well, we have done, of course, a lot of research anyway, is that the inhabitants of Helsinki spend more than 90% of their time in interior spaces, okay? So it's really like an interior citizenry, the inhabitants that form the inhabitants of Helsinki, no? And I'm going to show you a collection of these spaces so you can understand, you can follow what I'm talking about, no? Some of them are very generic, but some of them are really freaky. All these like caves with all sorts of products inside for kids, for sports. Yeah, swimming pools in these caves. It's amazing. Beaches, you know, fake beaches. Incredible. So we thought that that's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to create a collection of interior spaces, basically, you know? And since we do not want to design, we did exactly the same thing as we did in PS1. A series of rooms, more or less all with the same size. Well, they have to be a collection of sizes, but that was pretty much it, no? A series of rooms. But then, Well, this is actually like a collaboration we did with a photographer and art director. Her name is Carlota Santamaria. She's also like the art director of Odiseo, that is an erotic magazine that you should take a look. It's very refined, let's say, no? So she did this collection of images as well. This is quite heavy, the image, sorry. Oops, all right. All right, so this is the project, basically, like super simple in a way. We rehabilitated one building that was in the harbor, on the side, and actually the project was based in creating different atmospheres, but the difference between one atmosphere and the other would be very, very, very small, almost like it would change only a couple of degrees of Celsius, let's say, that's it. But you're going to understand the radicality of that as we go, no? All right, sorry, let me show you the plan as well. So you have like there had to be like a big room for big exhibitions, and then we created all the rest for different programs, and that's it. And then we created all these different devices to give also the users the possibility to interact with the weather, let's say, that enter the museum with our project. No? So this is the collection of rooms. The project was called 47 rooms instead of 44 rooms. That was the PS1. Very simple construction in a way. But being in Helsinki, we observed something incredible. And by the way, this project was not only us, it was also with Carmen Blanco, with Jorge López Conde, and with Álvaro Carrillo, and then a big like team of experts. We saw something that we call the politics of the sauna. The politics of the sauna, or climatic disagreements, let's say. Because saunas are something, if you start analyzing, that you can't believe, no? It's like these dark rooms that have like extreme temperatures, full of naked people that hit each other with a piece of wood, you know? That's basically what happens. So the society of the citizens of Helsinki are extremely developed in having these agreements in order to control temperatures, right? In these small rooms that are dark, they are all naked, and everything is fine, right? So we thought that we should use that knowledge that they have for our project as well, and that's exactly what we did. No? So in the projects, the temperature could be negotiated between the users as well, up to a certain extent. No? So, for example, we created this air mattress in the rooftop, so that the temperature could be controlled. That was one of the things. Yeah, they could open and close as well. Oh, this is so heavy, sorry. Yeah, for example, we also designed all this furniture that would heat the space as well. For example, plants also control humidity of the space too. So you can really control all these things that happen, the humidity and the temperature, with different elements, no? That's exactly what we did. But then, of course, I mean, there was another challenge with the Guggenheim, which is that what are you going to do after the Guggenheim? You know, I mean, how can we learn from the Guggenheim as well? Because of course, I mean, we know the Guggenheim from your right, you know, with this circulation, we know the Guggenheim Bilbao with the Guggenheim effect in the cities as well. But we also know what Atelier Beauvau did in the Beauvry and also in Berlin and in India as well. There was this exquisite piece of technology that would not be useful necessarily for exhibitions, museum exhibitions, but was just like a center, like a node for activities related to the museum as well, cultural activities, let's say, right? So we really wanted to learn from them and take a position too. And here's where I think the radicality somehow the project was, because if you know, museums have like very strict rules in terms of temperature for the insurance companies, right? So everything has to be between 22 and 25 like Celsius, let's say, no more. Otherwise, the insurance companies don't allow you to move the pieces, right, around the world, let's say. But if you make sure that the museum doesn't have that, or that only one space of the museum have that control, then blockbusters exhibitions would be impossible. So no more exhibitions about Kandinsky, let's say, that is what the Guggenheim does all the time. It will be impossible, or it will be only a part of the museum activities. And if you remember the plan that I showed you before, the big room was actually controlled, the temperature was controlled, but all the rest would be more like the Atelier Nouveau thing. So more for local activities, more activities that had to do with the production of culture, and not just this blockbuster consumption, right? These are just like some images that we produced for the first part of the project. This was like the image that was shown, the only image that we could think about that had a shape, because we wanted to really to talk about atmospheres and not about form or design per se. No? And the weather enters the museum. No? And now I'm going to talk about, I don't know if I should play the Velodrome or the OA house. I'm going to explain both very quickly because I don't think that I have that much time. No? Okay, I'm going to talk about the Velodrome that we did in Medellin. And this was done with Farsil of Tijan, Rasut, Nacho Hegalan, and El Equipo de Masanti as well. This was an international competition that we won. And one of the interesting things for us was the idea of doing something in Medellin, for what I'm going to explain you right now. Because if you think about Medellin in Colombia, I mean, you might think about this incredible valley, these beautiful mountains that are completely green, right? But probably what you think about is the narco war in Colombia during the 90s and 80s, and Pablo Escobar, no? Because, I mean, if you talk about people that went through the war, you cannot believe the stories. I mean, there were like 20 years where the public space completely disappeared. And they would tell you that they knew that they couldn't drive next to a bus because it could have a bomb. And they knew that they had to go from one fence place to another fence place, and these kinds of stories as well, right? So it was an extremely, extremely conflicted place, very dangerous as well, you know? Very, very dangerous as well. And suddenly, like in 2012 or 2013 or 2012, suddenly Medellin won, you know, the title of the most innovative city in the world, beating Hong Kong, beating New York, beating, you know, all these cities, right? Why? And suddenly you start studying what happened in Medellin, and you cannot believe it. It's like a social democrat dream with asteroids, let's say. You know? I mean, you cannot believe it. And what happened was like that there were a couple of mayors of the city that did an incredible effort. First, of course, the narco war disappeared with an international effort as well. Second of all, one of the mayors started to install all this infrastructure in the city, you know. Another mayor started to put these libraries in very conflicted places, very, very poor neighborhoods as well, so they will act as icons, and you could like them or not, that's irrelevant, but suddenly there would be notes of education, for example, you know, and there would be computers, and the kids, like from very, very poor families, could go and do their homework. Many things started to happen around as well, but most importantly, I would say it was an education effort. So, for example, you go in Medellin to the subway and you could eat on the floor. I mean, if you're in New York and you look at the floor, you could die, you know? It's disgusting. So people really take care of the city. You see signs everywhere. The city is yours, take care of it. So it's like in less than one generation, people have changed completely their minds. And they are like really proud of the city, and it's safe, and there are like all these public projects open for absolutely everybody, you know? Like the Velodrome, but like many other projects as well. Take a look if you're interested. It's like a miracle. I mean, you cannot believe it, really. You know? So then we had to do a Velodrome. That is really like a stadium-sized building. Now, if you think about buildings that are dedicated for sport, normally what happens is that they are very big-scale operations. extremely expensive, by the way, and that they are very rarely used. The rest of the time, when there's not a race or an event, they are closed, right? So they have like they create this visual impact. You know, they are very big, they are closed, and there's like a big investment for the city. And we wanted to do one by one the opposite of all these points, right? Our site was in the middle of a park that is called the Wheels Park. Like there's circulation of people riding bicycles, and we wanted to do a space that would be always open and that would be a public space. That was like the main idea that we had. No? This is the plan. What we did was actually, of course, we have to do the tracks and everything, but this collection of what we call trees, people call them wheels, but we don't like the metaphor that much. So trees that would allow the space to be completely open. Very little more. No? This is the rendering that we did for the museum, for the competition. We copied again one structure from Le Ricolet, this French engineer, that are like magic. So at the end they are like these like soap bubbles that float, right? And the bigger they are, the lighter they are. No? So this, we did like a collection of those. Here you can see very well how it operates really, no? So first you have a membrane, because we wanted to create also like this atmosphere, so it would be always nice inside. A membrane, and it was a lot of work with experts actually. Then the structure itself, then a facade. The idea is the facade was always down, but that would only come up if there was a raise, but it was completely porous, you know, so you could really look inside if you didn't have the money to buy a ticket. So it's really something, for legal reason we have to put a facade, but it really didn't operate as a facade, let's say. You could really see through. And then of course the tracks and the seats, and then the rest of the program that you have to put in a Velodrome pit, you know, where people change their clothes, and offices and all these kinds of things. So these are really very simple drawings that we did for the competition. And these are the trees. And the idea was, or the question that we asked ourselves, how can we pack these trees with programming? And in order to do that, we contacted an inventor actually. And I'm going to show you some of the things that we did with him. But first, I'm going to show you very quickly some images of the process of design of this structure that was very, very long. You know, doing these very long workshops in Colombia with experts from Barcelona, from Madrid, from Colombia, from Belgium as well. This is a section of the Velodrome. These were the trees. Now, the main problem that we have is that two of the trees, let's say, could not get to the ground because then they will interrupt the tracks. Right? So that's a structural project, that's a structural problem that's very difficult to solve. And at the end what we did is we created like a table, let's say, and every leg of the table was a group of 3 trees. You know, that is of course the triangle is the basic shape of, or the minimum shape for structural stability. And when we got to that, we could develop the structures without much problem, right? The beauty of these vertical structures, what I was telling you before, the bigger they get, the lightest they are. I'm going to show you some renderings. No, like this is the smallest one. And these are the ones that didn't touch the ground. It's like huge. I'll show you a section so that you can see also the scale. No? This is the last configuration. We wouldn't believe that we got to the one at the end, no? And there's so many months working. This is our section that at the very first stages of the project with all the fans and everything in order to create this microclimate inside as well. This is actually a section of one of the trees that didn't touch the ground, and you can see like the scale, right? Some details of how to open. I mean, another big problem, of course, is how to make sure that the air will not overheat, you know? So we have to pull the air out with these lids too. Fascinating process, to tell the truth. And this is the plan again. Oops. Yeah, and then the inventor. So we wanted to pack these trees with program, but we thought since this building was going to be like the most specialized building in the world about bicycles, let's say, we wanted to make sure that people could also exercise there and then with static bicycles. But in doing so, they would create certain atmospheric conditions, but not on top of them, but on top of others. So they will have to really negotiate with others as well. So we created, this inventor, these substructures that would hang from the trees, that would have like these devices for mist or air or light, and that would be activated with these static bicycles as well. You know, bicycles for kids, bicycles for old people, I mean for everybody more or less. And these are the drawings, are just like construction drawings, let's say, construction details. But this is how they look at the end. No? And at the end, the idea was to create this urban lamp for the city of Medellin. No? Now, talking about copies, we worked with a lawyer to make sure that the city of Medellin could copy our design without our permission. As you can imagine, our associates were not that happy. So we're still like negotiating this point. No? Anyway, how much time do I have? Okay, so I'm going to explain this project very quickly, and then I will talk very briefly about the Book of Scenes. Right. So this is a house that we did in Spain, the OE house. It was very dramatic because the crisis, the big financial crisis, started just in the middle when we started. No? So instead of just explaining little by little what we did, I'm going to read a small article, a small story that we did for a magazine once, so we get the idea. I like to think about the oil house as a classical love story, let's say, with a slow beginning, with a tortuous development, and with a happy ending, as some sort of a they live together ever after, no? And all right. So the OE house, or OE house in Spanish, is a montage, and the clients wanted a double house, so they could move from one house to the other according to their state of mind. So they did not like to spend their holidays traveling at all. They preferred to move downstairs and do it for real. So closing the quarters above completely. So we provide them with two well-known domestic environments. The open frame of the case study houses for the hedonistic pleasures of the warm season downstairs, topped with the interiorized existentialism of Le Corbusier Besson Jaoul for the windy months in La Sierra de Montsant in Catalonia. And we did literally the resultant exquisite corpse wrapped by the most Spanish architectural trope of all, the persiana or the shade, ensures the schizophrenic differentiation of modes of inhabitations as much as it negotiates the impossible encounter of both types. So you can see all the shades that I was telling you about. And as we develop the house, this is really like a warehouse, like really rough. That one of these warehouse that you find in the middle of the countryside. We also think about it as like an inner loft, maybe because we live in one, let's say, like something really rough and open, and that could completely open and disappear, no? Like this, completely open and disappear. All right. Now, yes, indeed, the old family wanted a masía with two houses in one, a summer house in the ground floor and a winter house in the first floor, on a high-century field at the edge of Alforja, a rural town with a climate more extreme, cold and windy than the rest of the region. And we researched the local rural construction typologies and a seasonal membrane that responds to daily weather changes. You can see the plans here. You can see that the first floor that I was telling you about, that was like more bourgeois, full of wood. And this Volta Catalana that you see on the ceiling was really difficult to find people that would do it, and really old people still do it in Catalonia, but it was like hard to find it as well. This is like the rooms as well. And of course the top floor. It's like a garden. No? These are like construction drawings, no? For like magazines or anything like that. Right. So learning from anonymous neighborhood case studies, but also from faraway examples as the Mansion de Wood or the case study houses I was mentioning before, we reached a crossroad between a masia, that is the traditional Catalan rural home, and a peasant storehouse, and developing open source systems and interchangeable ingredients, exploring two tangent streams between archaeology and innovation. So we reclaimed the almost forgotten Volta Catalana, local between local technique, and adapted industrialized components that came from afar so that the house could be built in 12 months only. And this was all about the temperature that I was mentioning before. Now, choosing the wrong contractor slowed this process down to 4.5 years. And in the meantime, the bank reduced 30% the initial agreed loan. So in order to save the house, we explored a radical optimistic management of adversity and uncertainty, where each setback was an opportunity to build a cheaper and better made home with a breath of collage and bricolage air. The clients of our family live right in front, the neighbor of every architect, no? I mean, the client living just there, no? So you have them all the time. Basically, and in summer in the construction site, they played and bathed among the hazel trees, camped on the floor, while the new home slowly and slowly and slowly grew. And this long-shared resilience test has given us a close engagement with the family, the builders, the craftsmen, and to celebrate it, we invited everyone to a calzotada, that is a traditional winter feast, where we cooked and have fun together. I'm going to show you like a 5-minute video or so. This is like the party that we did after 5 years of construction, with all these difficulties. Okay, so that was the other house, and now I'm going to just show you some images about this project, the Book of Scenes. That is a research typological project that I developed in different universities, and the idea is to study with great level of detail all these spaces that are completely forgotten and completely forgotten from the discipline because they have like very bad reputation. No? So the idea is that we go to all the deadly scenes and we study spaces associated with them. We have been specializing in Barcelona, but we also did one in Sydney, but it's in Barcelona basically, no? So these are like advanced studios, design studios with a very big research component and with very, very intense fieldwork, as you're going to see. So the first one that I did was Slough, Barcelona Movable Fest. As you know, when there is a financial crisis, the party goes crazy. So it happens in the 30s in Berlin, it happens in the 70s in New York as well. It happened somehow in Barcelona after the crisis too. So we went to Barcelona, this time with my Colombia master's students. The students had to party until the morning for 7 days. That was really hard. They were suffering horribly at the end. Also because they had presentations, they had to document all these spaces and draw them, take pictures, they have to fake characters in order to approach the people, they have to find the secret spaces, the after party places, you know. They have to identify the drugs, they have to identify the main characters like the gangsters and all these kinds of things. And as you can imagine, the students suffer horribly. Then one thing, like one of the base, one of the principles of these studios that I do is the idea of less competition and more collaboration between the students, among students. So at the end, they all do one project together, which means absolutely everything and touches everything that is involved in a project. So we all decide what are the best drawings and we all learn how to draw like that. So then at the end, it's all the production of one single team. All right, so the students decide, well, with my help, of course, no? Like, what are the best drawings, and they train each other to present orally, to produce all these drawings, the models, I mean, everything, no? I mean, to write arguments, etc., etc. No? So these are some of the examples. We do like professional exhibitions afterwards, apart from the end of the year show, whatever. And the presentation itself, it's like an event that we design very, very carefully, because all the class have to present together, and all the class have to defend the project together as well, after the exhibition, let's say. So this is the round table. The round table had like many iPads with animations as well, and the students were around the table with the jurors, basically explaining the project and defending it, as I was explaining before. The second one that we did was Grit, and it was Sydney gambling culture. I only stayed in Sydney just because I was there teaching at UTS, but also because in terms of gambling culture, Sydney and North South Wales is the more intense space on earth after Nevada. So every inhabitant of Sydney is at walking distance to a place to gamble. It's crazy. In every corner you find it. It's completely embedded in the culture, no? So again, the students have to take like secret hidden cameras and go to the illegal spaces and draw them and talk to the people and all these kinds of things. And then they did critical modifications of what we find there. And I'm not going to explain these are like the models and the drawings. And the last one that I did was last, the Barcelona Barrio Chino, or the Architectures of Illicit Love, that we did last spring with Colombia University. Barrio Chino, ex-former Barrio Chino, is in Raval, that now you don't find so many prostitutes, but it's like the classical neighborhood for prostitution in Barcelona, and with very famous products, actually, like amazing places. And the students, for a week, every night, how to investigate these places. They went into all the leather bars, in all the dark rooms. They had to go to the brothels, to the love hotels, in order to document it again. So again, hidden cameras, you know, I was explaining Ross before that at 2 in the morning, I would tell them, you send me a WhatsApp saying that you are alive, and you send me a picture too, no? So they would send me pictures in these dark rooms, like sitting on the floor, drawing, and it's incredible. And this is like a selection of the drawings with the projects. I'm not going to explain them, but here you see a hint of how they could draw at the end with a certain style, let's say, with selecting the colors, the way of doing it, everything in between, let's say. And always without designing, always doing just critical modifications or corrections of existing conditions as well, going back to the idea of agonism and copying. Exhibitions at the end. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cristina. Do you have any questions?
Complaints. Questions now or never?
Sorry, I think I missed it, but why did you only get through 3 of the 7 sins?
Sorry?
You only did 3 of the 7 sins. Why did you not complete
Well,
the
because
rest?
I started only 3 semesters ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing now another project that is called Epic Architecture, and we try to do the same thing that Bertolt Brecht did with theater, creating these moments of estrangement. And one thing that I didn't mention about the book of scenes and with the Epic Architecture, the same thing is that not only the students have to research about the topic historically, and it's always a disciplinary approach and psychological approach to the theme itself. So we study the places, the spaces, and the construction and everything. But also they have to do this research in terms of what I was telling at the very beginning of the lecture about the public intellectual. The students have to read the newspapers and have to identify what are the topics that have to be discussed in the universities. The topics that are urgent, that have to do with politics, that have to do with social issues, cultural issues, things that we believe that have to be addressed by architects as us. We not only give a service, we are active actors in the city as well. Yeah.
I guess I was just curious if you could elaborate more on the role that sort of research plays within both your practice and as well as like the studios that you teach, because I think it was like really interesting to see sort of those 3 sims that you have completed so far, and like the way that like a student has sort of an agency to sort of understand the space a little bit more than what they normally would have through the sort of investigative process and like the research that's conducted throughout the whole design process.
Yeah, well, in terms of our practice, we do a lot of research every time we do a project. I mean, and in different levels. I mean, we study what are like the urgent issues that we believe that have to be addressed. That's one of the things that we always do in the newspapers, blah blah blah. So that's in terms of the construction of the city. We take a look about what are the disciplinary conversations that are happening now that we need to address. We think we study what are the conversations in terms of representation. So one of the things that sometimes curators tell us is that we can't recognize you because you draw differently with every project almost. And that's something that they see as a problem, and we are very proud of that. So we don't want to be recognized, you know. I mean, we want to be like a double secret agent, if you want, no? We just see what is the conversation going on right now, and we try to say something about it also in terms of what we draw. So that in terms of the research that we do with practice. In terms of the studios, it's a little bit the same thing, really. Like the newspapers to see what is going on, the disciplinary conversation that is going on, and then in terms of representation, it's like a super serious, we have a super serious approach. Super serious approach, it's like very intense work as well. Yeah. I mean, I could go with more details. For example, for the vocal scenes, only in the midterm, the students that are divided in teams have to produce one book each, that again is a critical copy of famous books that have manifestos about cities. So one of them is Made in Tokyo, the other is Brussels, Capital of Europe by Victor Aureli, of course, very low, and the other is Uncertain State of Europe by Borelli. So it's not made in Tokyo, it's made in Barcelona, and it's about lust. So they have to do a copy, but talking about Barcelona and talking about these brothers, etc. No? And again, so yeah, research is a very big part of it. But again, it's a design project and it's a typological approach. So we do buildings at the end, and they are like very detailed as well in terms of the technology and everything. Yeah.
We have an issue with the microphone. Yeah. Maybe I can follow on that question actually, and maybe this comes back a bit to the notion of agonism that you mentioned, but I think I would like to sort of get more from you on that. It recalls me at least the moment I saw you in the Quincy speaking in the Chicago Biennial a number of years ago, and it was a very interesting panel because it was about like open space and non-programming or something like this. One of these things that people would celebrate and without really critically thinking about it. And your response was, I thought, quite nice to sort of reject that notion and I don't remember exactly the criticism, but to sort of turn the question around and questioning the sort of institutions and so forth that underpin such an idea. And it reminds me, in terms of the drawing styles that you were saying, you sort of just kind of occupy a certain type of style or another. Because at some points, I wonder if people misinterpret some of your projects in a way. I mean, you could look at like Weathers and Philip Rahm and see something like, oh, this happy idea of atmospheric, or like participation and or interactive architecture and so forth like that. And I think it's really fascinating because your projects seem to always, I don't know if this is an intentional thing, to sort of inhabit an aesthetic like that, in order to lead one in, only to say, actually, no, it has a certain critical agency that we place in it beyond the celebration of atmosphere and so on. I wonder if you could just talk about that, where the agonism might actually erupt.
Well, I think that the agonism comes a little bit in every part. So the agonism in the Guggenheim had to do with the Guggenheim institution itself in a place like Helsinki, and how can you almost boycott the idea so that all these blockbuster exhibition won't be possible, so that the Russians would not come with boats, only for the exhibition and then leave. That was what was going to happen basically. No? So the very first principle of the competition we tried to break because we didn't agree in a way. In terms of the representation, of course, we are super interested in copies, and I have an anecdote, no? Like this summer, someone from from Helsinki, told me that a friend of his was one of the local architects that was in the jury. And that this architect that was in the jury pushed our project because he thought that it was Philip Brown. Yeah. So another thing that happened with the is that all sorts of things happened. No? In the second phase, suddenly we got this call from the Guggenheim saying that one curator have identified one of our photomontages, and as, one of the parts of the photomontage was a picture from one of his exhibitions. But it was a photomontage, but anyway, they say that they didn't want legal problems and they want to put a black square on top. And we were really upset for 5 minutes, and then we thought that it was fantastic, because then, all the jurors maybe would, project their desire and on top of that, no? So one thing that actually we're starting to research about that I didn't have time to develop is this idea of the construction of desire by absence, which is something that is going to go like in writing and these kinds of things as well. I don't know if this answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions? You agree with everything? I don't I would be so angry. Yes. Yell.
Should I just project?
Yes,
Okay.
as much as possible.
I'm not sure how to formulate this question, but basically, I was a little bit surprised with how your students would go into these almost dangerous situations for their research for the Seven Sins. So could you just talk more about that? How
Yes.
how did you manage that danger, I guess?
Well, first of all, they are adults. There's people from 24 to 33 or something like that. So it's not like on the grass. They're like people, not exactly like me, but like 25-year-old. I understand that they are adults and they can take care of themselves. The other thing is that they somehow decide exactly what was the scene that they want to research about. So, for example, in terms of the last, some people wanted to research about these drag queen spectacles that happen in El Raval. So it was like to go to shows at night, that's it. And they would talk to the people, the actress and the actors, and they would go backstage and they would interview them. They had to do interviews and they would draw the places. And to go to a love hotel, it's very easy. You only have to pay at the entrance. You take like a small camera, you go, you draw the room and you go back. You don't have to do anything else. If you didn't want to, I'm not, private life, I don't care really. And then the leather bars and these kinds of issues, again, I think that they are adults. Of course, they have to tell me exactly what are they going to do every day. It's like in Barcelona, these bars are open bars. It's like in Raval, there are these bars. It's not like something, it's not like a sadomaso sub-world or something like that. I don't go to these places really, It was like open bars. I know in advance where they're going to go, more or less. But I think that the universities should take this kind of risk as well. I believe that it's very important actually. And since they can choose, and I can guide them because I know Barcelona quite well, I believe that it's going to be fine, But I don't believe in this overprotection of the students. You are adults. That's how I was educated. Yeah.
Thanks.
Huh?
Thank you.
Questions?
Yes.
Your presentations are unique when you are in competition. You just mentioned that they're very different. How have they evolved during time since you start running for competitions till now?
Well, the thing is that we never did a lot of competitions. We do one every 2 years or so. We've been very lucky, actually. I think. For example, the first time that we won a competition, Uchi and I, it was the two of us by ourselves. I had one with David at Europan before. That was mostly him, basically. But the Europan that I did with Uchi, that actually we won the first prize, and it was the first image that I show about this map, you remember, was about that specific project. What we did was, I also studied Europans as my dissertation topic, so I've been also a jury now, so I know. So we took a very pragmatic approach. That was almost the first thing that we did together. We studied Europan, we studied the history of competitions, we studied the history of Europan. We studied almost every entry, So we would identify that if we wanted to win at that point, we had to do this, and this. And you have to break the rules. And we broke so many rules that we thought that we were going to be, how do you say, kick out from the competition. I always think that if you don't win, at least you should be kicked out, you know? It has to be at least something. But we won the first prize, and this is something that we have done a few times, yeah. So yes, they have evolved because, again, if we do one competition every 2 years, and we look around to see what is the conversation about representation, then we act accordingly, more or less, you know, more or less, yeah.
One last question.
What's your next agonism?
I don't know. No, I'm preparing. I'm going to start like in a couple of days a class in MIT about theater that I was telling you about. So I will develop it there. And now we're writing. We have a commission to write a book of essays actually. So I think that's going to be. I'm going to write about this topic of the construction of desire by absence. I think. Yeah. Any other questions or complaints?
I was only wondering, how do your client meetings go?
My client what?
Yeah, it sounds like you might have really fun client meetings.
We didn't have so many clients, right? Yeah, I mean the house, well, you know, it took like 1 year and a half only to do the basic design because at the beginning they wanted the typical, you know, this type of house or a typical masia. So it was like a lot of work to convince them that we wanted to do this Frankenstein of a study house and a Corbusier. But at the end it's not exactly like that, no? It wasn't that much fun. Yeah, well, I laughed afterwards, you know. And then it was always the MOMA and Guggenheim and all these kinds of things on competitions like politicians. I don't know, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That was fun. Yeah. We try to really to do architecture for pleasure in a way, you know, like collecting these people that we admire around us and to make it like a celebration almost, no? That's for sure. Yeah.
I think. Thank you so much, Cristina.
Thank you.